الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Amma ba'd. Our noble brother Shaykh Diyab, Hafidahullah, he started by saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the meaning of the ayat, and do not think that Allah is unaware of that which the oppressors do. Indeed, He delays them to a day in which the eyes and the sights will be frightened, looking up in fear. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the end of the ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the oppressors, the wrongdoers and the criminals, that they will be looking up in fear, and they will be frightened, and their hearts will be filled with fear, and they will be chained. And they will be chained, and the hellfire will surround their faces and will encompass them. Maymun ibn Mahran, he mentioned in regards to the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not think that Allah is unaware of what the oppressors used to do. He said that this is a threat, a warning to the oppressors and to the wrongdoers. And this is likewise a glad tiding and a condolence to the oppressed, to those who are oppressed. And there is no doubt that the worst of oppression, the worst of injustice, is associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is polytheism. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the meaning of the ayat regarding the statement of Luqman to his son, he said to him in the meaning of the ayat, O my son, do not associate partners with Allah, for indeed polytheism is a great oppression. And it is without a doubt even much worse when the person combines between the greatest of oppression, associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, along with oppressing the people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes those who cause the punishment, who cause themselves to deserve the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by oppressing themselves. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the meaning of the ayah, and we have not oppressed them, but rather they used to oppress themselves. And it is even worse when the oppressors oppress the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who do not associate any partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who oppress the believers. Those are oppressions of different levels. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the meaning of the ayah that the disbelievers are the oppressors, the disbelievers are the wrongdoers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warned the oppressors. There is a great threat to the oppressors and the wrongdoers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the meaning of the ayah, and thus is the taking of your Lord, if He takes the cities while there are oppressors. Indeed, His taking and His torment and His punishment is severe and strong. How many people? They have oppressed the people. They have oppressed the believers. And we're unjust towards them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took them and punished them and destroyed them. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the meaning of the ayah. And how many cities have we destroyed that were oppressors, and we made after them come new people other than them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delays the oppressors, and He does not leave them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala merely delays them, and their punishment is either in this life, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delays it for them to the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the meaning of the ayah, if Allah was to punish the people for what their hands have earned, then He would hasten the punishment for them. But rather they have an appointed meeting which there is no escape from. And likewise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delays the oppressor and the wrongdoer. And if He takes him, as the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, if He takes him, then He does not leave him. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that was the meaning of which was mentioned earlier. That which we see from the forms of oppression against the believers, from the crimes committed by the disbelievers against the believers. There's no doubt that it is a great form of oppression. And our predecessors were oppressed with the likes of it and worse. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed the oppressors. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave victory to the believers. We know that victory is with patience. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves the believers and removes the hardships from them by way of their patience and their belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as for the oppressors and the wrongdoers, then they will be humiliated and they will be destroyed, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the meaning of the ayah. Indeed, the way of blame is upon those who oppress the people and cause chaos on earth and cause mischief on earth without right. To them is a severe torment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not destroy the disbelievers based upon their disbelief by itself. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the meaning of the ayah, and your Lord does not destroy the cities while they are oppressed, while they're wrongdoers, when its people are rectifiers. The people of tafsir, they explain the meaning of this ayah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not destroy the cities, does not destroy the cities because of their disbelief by itself. If its people are just towards one another and do not oppress one another and do not harm one another, but rather Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroys them when they oppress themselves, when they oppress the believers, when they oppress one another, when they are unjust towards one another. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned the meaning of the hadith, Al-Hadith Al-Qudsi, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the meaning of it, my servants, I have made oppression impermissible upon myself and made it impermissible amongst you, so do not oppress one another. The people of knowledge, Al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah, he mentioned that oppression is three levels, is of three types. There is a type that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not forgive, meaning if the person was to die upon it, if the person was to live upon it and die upon it, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not forgive it. And it is associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, polytheism. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not forgive it. And there's a form that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not let it go, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not let it go. And it is the oppression amongst the people, oppressing others. And there's a form of oppression that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives. And it is for one to oppress himself by sinning and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warned us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warned us against siding with the oppressors and against being with them and being amongst them and defending them. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the meaning of the ayah, and do not find comfort with those who have oppressed themselves, so that the hellfire will touch you. You will be touched and will be harmed and tormented with the hellfire, and you have no protectors besides Allah. From the forms of being with the oppressors is to water down the matters of the religion and to compromise in regards to one's religion by way of defending them, by way of being with them, by way of siding with them, by way of loving them. All of those are forms of compromise in the religion, which causes the person to be with the oppressors. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect our believing brothers and sisters. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect them and to remove the harm that befell them and to destroy their enemies. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.